The rain had been falling for hours, soft but steady, soaking through her worn jacket as she stood at the base gate. To most people passing by, she was invisible, just another quiet woman waiting for something or someone who might never come. The guards barely glanced at her. Trucks rolled past and the flags above snapped in the wind. But she didn't move. Her shoes were muddy, her hair tied back neatly, her eyes fixed on the horizon beyond the iron fence. No one knew her name. No one knew why she came there every morning, rain or shine. They only called her the lady at the gate. Her name was Evelyn Hart. Years ago, she had worn the same uniform as the men now marching past her. She had been young, fierce, and unbreakable, a medic who served in some of the harshest deployments of her generation. But that was long ago. War had taken her brother, her team, and almost her mind. When she came home, there were no welcome parades, no reunions, no medals pinned on stage. Just silence. She was quietly discharged after an injury and faded into civilian life, carrying memories that no one wanted to hear. Yet every year, on the same date, she returned to that gate, the place where her brother's unit had deployed for the last time. The guards noticed her after the second year. She never caused trouble. She didn't speak much, only stood with a small photo in her hands. Her brother, smiling in his Navy uniform, standing beside a group of SEALs. Most of them never came back. The base commander had once offered to let her in for the memorial inside, but she refused. "I'll wait here," she'd said softly. "This is where I last saw him." So she waited year after year, through sun and snow, through loneliness and time. But that year was different. The security had changed. New personnel, stricter rules, fewer familiar faces. When Evelyn arrived that morning, the guard at the gate, a young recruit barely 20, frowned and told her to move along. "Ma'am, this area is restricted," he said, not unkindly but firm. She simply nodded and stepped back beyond the line, still facing the gate. The guard shook his head, muttering under his breath. To him, she was just another civilian holding on to the past. He didn't know that she had once dragged a wounded SEAL through a firefight and saved his life in a desert far away. Hours passed. The sky darkened and the storm grew louder. A convoy of black SUVs rolled toward the base, high-ranking officers returning from a classified briefing. The guard straightened, saluting as the vehicles approached. Evelyn didn't move. Her eyes followed one SUV, the one bearing the flag decals. Inside sat a SEAL commander named James Riker, a man whose reputation in the special operations community was legendary. He'd served for over 2 decades, a veteran of missions no one talked about in public. But even legends carry ghosts, and when his eyes caught the figure by the gate, something inside him paused. The convoy stopped. No one knew why. The rain hit harder now, splashing against the pavement. Commander Riker stepped out, ignoring the calls from his driver. He walked toward the gate, boots sinking into the mud, his gaze never leaving the woman standing there. As he got closer, he saw the photograph in her trembling hands. The face beside her in that photo, he recognized it instantly. It was Marcus Hart, her brother. Riker froze. That name wasn't just familiar. It was personal. Marcus had been under his command on a mission that went horribly wrong. Riker had made the call to retreat, but Marcus had stayed behind to save his team. His sacrifice saved them all. Riker had never forgiven himself. Evelyn didn't recognize him at first. Her mind was locked in the same moment it had been for years, the last wave her brother gave her before boarding that convoy. But when she saw the patch on his shoulder, the SEAL trident glinting in the rain, her heart faltered. Something told her this man carried a story she needed to hear. Yet before a word was spoken, the base fell silent. The guard stiffened in confusion as Commander Riker came to a halt just a few feet from the gate. He stood tall, rain dripping from his cap, and then, to everyone's shock, he raised his hand and saluted her first. No one moved. The guard nearest him blinked, unsure what he was witnessing. A decorated SEAL commander, saluting a civilian woman at the gate. But Riker's salute didn't waver. His eyes glistened with unspoken grief and respect. Evelyn stood frozen, tears mixing with rain, her trembling hand rising slowly to return the salute. That moment stretched endlessly, a bridge of pain and honor spanning years of silence. To the soldiers watching, it was a mystery. To them, she was no one. But to Riker, and to the memory of the men who didn't come home, she was everything. He finally lowered his hand. stepped closer and said quietly, so only she could hear, "We remember him every year inside. You should come in this time." She shook her head. Her voice was barely a whisper, but it carried through the rain. "This is where he left. This is where I'll stay." For a long moment, neither moved. Then Riker nodded, his jaw tight, his eyes wet. He turned to his men and said, "From today on, when you pass this gate, you salute her." And just like that, the rule was born. From that day forward, every soldier who entered that base paused at the gate to honor the woman who had once served quietly, lost her brother, and still stood strong through the years. Evelyn never asked for recognition. She didn't want medals or words of praise. But she became a silent symbol of what service really meant: love, sacrifice, and loyalty that didn't end when the uniform came off. As time went on, even recruits who never knew her brother learned her story. They called her the guardian of the gate, and though her body grew frail, her presence remained unbroken. A living reminder that heroes don't always stand on the battlefield. Sometimes they stand alone, waiting, remembering. When Evelyn passed away quietly in her sleep a few years later, the base held a small ceremony. No speeches, no cameras, just a folded flag, a framed photo, and a moment of silence as Commander Riker himself stood once again at the gate, saluting her for the final time. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us keep honoring the untold stories of courage, love, and sacrifice that shaped our history. And before we end, tell us in the comments below, who would you stand at the gate for? Because sometimes the greatest heroes are the ones who never stopped waiting.